Hello, ladies, and welcome to Wake Up Wednesday. I'm your host, Jay, and I'm here today with Jenny Tosner. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, Jay. Thank you so much. I'm so
Hello.
excited to be here.
So, sisters, this is a really special and brand new episode and series on Wake Up Wednesday. It's called the Sister Spotlight Series, and a rare group of small women over the next year. I'm going to introduce them to you one by one and share their unique message and mission in the world, as well as a really beautiful gift that they've prepared just for you in our tribe here in JanineYoder.com. And I'm really excited to launch it off with Jenny because she is such a special woman, as you'll come to know over the next few minutes in our episode. And I'm going to start by sharing her official bio, but we're going to pause in between to jam Jenny and really help the women come to know you and your energy and share what you have today. So Jenny is a medicine whisperer and warrior storyteller. Just pause and feel that in for a moment, because I know that some of those words might speak to you already, and as you can feel, they're really unique and potent. So, medicine whisperer and warrior storyteller. She's also a Mentor Masterclass certified life coach. This is where Jenny and I came to know each other. She enrolled in Mentor Masterclass. We spent a year together really working on her business, mastering. She mastered all of the life coach training school techniques within Mentor Masterclass, and has currently joined the Sisterhood Mastermind, where we're continuing to develop her brand and message. And she is also a fast national trainer. Jenny, do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So I have a background in family therapy even before I came into Mentor Masterclass. And the reason why is because I had been a teacher for almost a decade of my life. And I started to notice that the students in my class would be so much more supported if their families had the support. Mm-hmm. So I went into family therapy and family empowerment, which was the work that I was actually doing before I joined a Mentor Masterclass. And I've since gone on to become a national trainer. So I lead groups of people on these family empowerment experiences all over the country. I just wrapped up a $15 million project in Philadelphia. So
wow.
It's a really nice addition to the life coach training work to really get into working with like families who are at high risk, living in impoverished areas, and to also know that empowerment work serves us all, and mm-hmm. that it can also serve the women who may not be quite at risk in their own lives, but empowerment is empowerment. And so when we step into our own power and we lean into the solidarity of sister support, big things happen.
It's so important, and it's so beautiful that I'm glad we paused on that, because I think a lot of people might read your bio and brush right past that and not really comprehend what you're really bringing and explaining about your past and your gifts. I think that in Mentor Masterclass, working with women training to become coaches, it's amazing how much it requires a full holistic approach. And I think what you're sharing also is that through your fast national trainer experience, you obviously know how to work with your clients on looking at how what they're doing is affecting all the people around them, and how the people around them are their support system, which was really incredible and valuable. So Jenny is also a public speaker who uses her certifications, skills, training, and experience to help you change your life. I got to witness this firsthand during Mentor Masterclass. Jenny attended the Captivate training, where she took the stage and shared her story, which is amazing. And I hope that you really come. I don't know, we won't get into it in depth in this video, so you'll definitely want to check out and find out more about her background and story, which kind of leads me into the part of that story is that after 10 years of living, learning, and teaching on Native American reservations, she has crafted a life and business that is in full harmony and beautiful flow with spirit, and which honors the ancestral wisdom of Native people. So I want to pause for a minute. Something that I love to do, which we rarely get to do in sisterhood and with other women, is hold space for being able to shine bright and really brag about some of our talents and gifts and things that we've experienced. And so ladies, with you watching, I want to invite you into this ritual, and for me and Jenny, to just give Jenny the space to really brag about some of the amazing accomplishments that you've had in your life and how that has created you to be the woman that you are, and some of the things that you're going to share today. So just tell us, Jenny, what are some of the things are pretty profound experiences you've had, or those things that you would say, I'm an expert in this field, or I really know this thing as a result of some of my experience. And we want to hold space for you to really shine and brag.
Thank you. I so received that. So I've always been an adventurer. When I was in my younger 20s, I was like, I'm going to change the world. And I thought I could only do that in really remote places. And so I actually moved to the Bering Sea in Alaska and lived in this like tiny little Yupik Eskimo village where you had to like fly in and out of with an airplane. And that was my first experience towards like living and teaching in a different culture. And it was so exciting. But in the process of being there, I was in this school shooting, which left me with like PTSD and a lot of trauma. And I was only able to process that through a community of women, primarily women. And so that's why sisterhood is so important, because I was not able to hold space for myself and really needed to lean into the supports. And I noticed that Native people have a much different way of relating to each other, especially when there's a traumatic event, than we do in Western society, because we're so isolated and we live such fragmented lives. And yet when within the Native communities, like there is this sense of everybody takes care of each other, and for good or bad or otherwise. And yes, there's some certain amounts of dysfunction that may still happen in Native communities, but the banding together and the solidarity is absolutely there. And so I found myself really through that experience. And when I came back home, I missed it. I missed being in Native community because there was that sense of community. And then much later, I had an opportunity to go back to living on the reservation. And I actually met and got to work with somebody. His name is Edwin Benson, and he was the last speaker of the Mandan language. And I was writing all of these grants to go and tell his story. Like, how does he get to be the last speaker of a language? And so my own story sort of got wrapped up into his story, and a lot of crazy adventures happened along the way. But in the end, it became this process of when I started to sniff around and ask questions about what brings a language to come to be the last, spoken by only one last person. The school had a very significant role to play in that, with the history of colonization and oppression that happens at a systemic level. And I got into a lot of trouble for asking these questions, and the school tried to get rid of me. And so, again, this was the time for me to lean into community and lean into sisterhood support. And I had a lot of really strong women in my life, including my adopted sister Willa, who I talk about all the time. She's got a lot of medicine in her family and taught me a lot about standing strong and speaking your truth even when others are against you, and being truly a warrior for yourself. And so that's where warrior storyteller comes from. She's like, in telling the story, you are becoming a warrior. And I feel like we are all asked to do that, especially when we're healing pieces of trauma in our lives, that being able to transcend that really does take a warrior energy, and also the acknowledgement that deep healing happens when you stand forward and share your truth in a community of support before you have to defend it in a much larger way.
What I love about you, Jenny, and the work that you're doing, and as you share your own story, I begin to process it and revel in who you are as a mentor and teacher even more, is that I think, first of all, a lot of coaches are not trained or shy away from holding space for trauma. And I think that you are willing to step in there, and you do it with it's not in a victim energy. It's in a warrior energy. It's not to come forward with your traumas, to tell your story from that victim place, or to let that story consume your identity. But rather, it's an invitation to find your strength through your story, and claim the space, to give it the space that it needs to transcend and process. But you also, I think sometimes our traumas do have a way of having us go into a lone warrior place or secluding us from others. And you're actually finding a new way of not only bringing a mentor and a trained support to help you process in a positive, empowered way, but also you're inviting women to experience that, and you do this yourself as you continue to process your own trauma through sisterhood and support, and a space that up-levels and enlivens you to become clearer about that when you say soul whisperer, it's like I feel that you are a reflection and a sister, and so are the communities that you create, to see why was this experience relevant for you? What is your path? How do you share it and move forward and become that warrior of light through the process? So I'm so happy that you gave us a little bit of an insight as to your personal experience with trauma, but also your way of working with women and the way that you invite them to through some of the talents and skills that you've had, like crazy adventures and working with this man in the last known language, and even your willingness to ask those questions and deal with the uncomfortable and disheartening revelations that you were having. It shows a bit of your warrior nature as well. So that so that kind of brings me into the final part of your bio, at least, which is moving into your signature process and what you do now and today as a result of all of your experience and wisdom and talents and training in Mentor Masterclass and currently opening your coaching business. So through her unique signature process, Jenny teaches you how to connect with your true purpose and your highest self, and to step out of hiding to share your message with the world through storytelling. Jenny invites you to find your soul's medicine with her, to express it fully, and to join her tribe of warrior storytellers. Which now I think all of that makes so much sense, understanding your past and where you've come. So with that, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in the world right now, some of the ways that you are of service in the program that you have available.
Yes, absolutely. And I really want to acknowledge sisterhood as being such a critical component, because I've interviewed a lot of women in our industry who are stepping out as leaders and stepping out as life coaches. And yet there's still these little secrets that we tend to want to hide in the closets, because we're not fully ready to share things that have been traumatizing, or things that we don't want to fully own about ourselves. And the first time I really experienced this liberation was when I was in my early 20s and I was in theater, and we did the Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. And I was, for the first time in my life, able to talk about a history of sexual trauma that I had experienced as a child. And I was in this community with other women, and the statistic that we found was that 2/3 of women are actually have gone through some sort of trauma in this way in their lifetime. And that's a really high number. That's the majority of us. And yet that wasn't a conversation I had ever had up until that moment. And so when I'm starting to now work with other women, these stories from the past are starting to come forward. And someone will tell me, well, I think I'm over this, but my dad was murdered when I was 16. Or I think I'm over this, but I was raped when I was young. I think I'm over this because I've unpacked it a lot. But, and there's been a really critical thing that has stopped their ability to trust their own spiritual journey. And that's sort of where they get stuck. And so it's really being able to turn that into a different story. I love that Abraham Hicks tells us that in every minute of our lives, we can tell ourselves a better and better and better story, and the choice is really ours. And so, yes, it's acknowledging the past and acknowledging the pain. I never want to hide the shadowy stuff. I actually think it's really powerful when we start to air out those closets and to bring the shadows forward and to love and accept them and to learn fully from them. And that's the point in which we transcend. And so when I'm starting to work with women now in stepping into their power, it's really about releasing the shadow and stepping more fully into their light. And then once we do that, there's really nothing stopping us. There's really nothing stopping us from stepping forward even more fully. And the medicine and the experience, so the experience that we've had, our biggest life, our hardest life moments are oftentimes the medicine that we carry for other people. And other people are out there alone, suffering in their little pockets of solitude. And how would they even know that they have the permission to be themselves too, unless we're fully owning who we are? And so Storytellers is a program for women. It's really designed for fierce and fearless women who are on a mission to change the world through sharing our medicine as only we can. And another component that I notice, I've interviewed a lot of women, and all the women who've worked with me have this sort of secret desire to be famous, but they don't exactly know what they're supposed to be famous for. They may not be conventionally beautiful or a good singer or a dancer or want to be an astronaut, like all the things that we think connotate fame. But they, for some reason, they've always felt that they were meant to take the stage or to be famous or to write the book. And they just didn't know what they were going to be known for. And it turns out that they have a story in them. And oftentimes they have spiritual gifts that they're still hiding. And so through this process of working together, it's just really it's really tuning into what is the vision that their higher self has crafted for them. Like, we are infinite souls. We are capable of so much more than we think our human constraints often allow us. But when we tap into that infinite potential to really embody your highest self, that's when all of the answers come. That's when everything is just laid in your pathway. That's when you start to be helped along by invisible hands that start to guide this process for you. And so I really learned how to do that from all of my years of living on the reservation. It's like tuning into spirit, embodying a sense of flow, and also working through with you, Janine, is just like getting into the feminine, and channeling that feminine energy in business is so present for this as well. But once we tune into the wisdom of our higher selves, like, there's nothing that can really stop us. It's such an unlimited force. And then when we go through that process and we tune into the desire and we tune into our spiritual gifts and we release the shadow, that takes time. But once all of that is cleared, once all of that groundwork is laid, like, who couldn't you be? What couldn't you do? And so then comes this stepping out, right? Stepping out of hiding and into the fullness of who you're meant to become. And so it's really weaving in those elements of magic and miracles and stepping out of the hiding so that we can share boldly our story and our medicine with the world. And for some people, that looks like stepping out on stage. Like, that was huge for me when I stepped out as a public speaker. But for some, it might be writing the blog or writing an article and getting that published, or being part of a victims organization, or speaking out against violence in their community. Like, there are lots of ways that this can go. And so through the process of this program, I'm really inviting people to step out in a public way. They have a desire in them already to be a public figure and of public service. So we do all the inner work to get them ready to fully step out and be able to share that with the world in a much bigger way. And that's just the beginning.
I'm so, this really resonates with me so deeply, Jenny, because we have a little bit of a cross connection in our service, and that we both come from theater backgrounds. So I think a lot of the women that follow me do have that feeling. They're drawn to that desire that I have to be out in the world in a big way with my mission, and some of that stems from theater artistic backgrounds. But also, the Captivate Retreat really holds a lot of similar essence into what you're teaching, and that I wanted to provide a safe place for women to share their story. And so I know the power of that work. I've witnessed it each year as you have a safe circle and a mentor who is powerfully, lovingly holding a container for you to explore your range and to get clarity and say that story out loud, and then help you define where you want to take that story and remove all the obstacles that are keeping you from calling in the things you desire in your life, or outwardly doing those things with a place of inner power and confidence. It really does happen through the storytelling. I see that every year. So I know the truth of what you're speaking in your program and the transformation that happens. And while it is a timely process, I'll say that at Captivate is only a 4-day experience, and the women are really changed. So the opportunity to actually get to be with you. How long is your program? Tell us a little bit about the program.
Yes, it's 6 months, and it's a combination of group and one-on-one.
Beautiful.
Because I listen deeply, and I have a very strong intuitive hits for people. So I wanted to be able to hold space for them one-on-one, because there's just stuff you can do one-on-one that you cannot get through in a group. But also the presence of sisterhood is so important. So it's structured that they get both one-on-one and group coaching. So in group coaching, we come to know the other women who are part of it. We do I do actual teaching and content, and then they take that and they apply that and they start to tell their story in group. So there's lots of practice, and there's lots of working through the stuff. And there's lots of then stepping out so that they get cultivated support on every step of that journey. And I also work with a lot of women who know that there's something special about what they do, but they don't know how to talk about it, or they're painting their work over with very bold strokes that are the language of the industry, and they want to know, like, what makes me unique? What makes my message shine? How do I help people in a way that's different than everybody else? And to do that, you have to kind of dig into some of those juicy details. And I'm so guilty of this too. I was using all the same language when I first started my business. And now that I've stepped into like the language that's specific to me, it resonates so much more with the people who are looking for that thing. And so I really wanted to give people a chance to find those answers from their higher self, but also like dig into the things that make them specific and unique as a service provider, so that they're not just telling the same story, but they're really getting into their soul's essence.
I can tell even from our time together, and we were jamming a little bit before we hit record, like it really does take that person and that sounding board. It's so easy for us to fall in the flowery language, or because if we have told our story a lot, or we have done the inner work, we forget that like the depth and just the truth and the potency of sharing it, because we've shared it so many times. Like we need someone to reflect back to us how to make it clear. And when you do, which is really coming through for you today, you can talk about what you do in a way where people can really feel it and they get it and they can resonate with it and say, that's what I need. That's where I'm at. I can feel that that's the challenge that I've come up against that is worth devoting my time and resources toward healing, because that's what's going to get me to the next stage. And if we're all listening, if the women here are really listening and giving themselves the space to be present, they're going to know if you're touching on what's true for them. Their inner voice is going to pipe up. And that's something that you said about your program too. Some of the things that you said you really work through are learning to channel your higher self, to find the answers and answer those questions for yourself, and getting clear on what is your unique soul purpose. Why have you come here? What are you doing? And what is your core message? How do you talk about it? And that leading you to really finding the language that's unique to your life experience, so that you can stand out and get noticed in a crowded market space, and actually not just use the flowery language, but really articulate who you are and what it is that you do through the support of a mentor and a sisterhood. I also really love that you add like working on the beliefs that you can handle the bigness of your mission. I've really witnessed you in that as well, in all of your gifts, whether they be your spiritual channeling gifts, your ability to be a warrior, your ability to process your own trauma and move forward when those blocks regurgitate themselves for you. Like I can really see that it's all about owning that you can really handle the bigness of your mission. And of course, really learning to receive support, which is so much more complicated than we recognize. But for most of us, we think we can receive, and it's not until we get into a container where we're trying to practice sisterhood that we recognize where our heart is closed, or where we are lone warriors resisting and trying to do it by ourselves. So it's such a beautiful program, Jenny, and I know they can find out more. There's a link below our video where you can really go find out more about the program if you're resonating with Jenny and some of the things that she's sharing. But you have something free that you're gifting the women today, which I think is so incredible, and I'm so thankful that you're offering this. And ladies, you should really listen up. So tell us a little bit about what you are offering to those women who take advantage of it today.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm opening up my calendar to give free coaching sessions, which I don't do often because my one-on-one is booked right now. So I'm opening it up to offer 10 women a 30-minute free one-on-one story strategy session. So what we're going to do with that is really like unpack your story and find like language that's specific to you and how that's different than what other people have. And then also get into like, what is the story that really wants to come forward? What is the story that you're still wanting to tell but still struggling to tell? And so it's very impactful. The people that I've led through this story strategy session already have had like huge breakthroughs. So it's really exciting that we get to have this way to explore our work together.
Beautiful. So ladies, if you've been listening and you're one of those women that just throws out the like, oh yeah, I think I'm over this, but maybe one time I was molested when I was 5 years old, or, all of the different traumatic things that as women we often hold in our own way. And it might not appear as that traumatic. It might be just a conversation you had with your mother that's hurt you to this day that you've never processed. The range of what feels like traumatic to us and these stories that we don't tell or talk about are important. So this is an opportunity to actually get one-on-one time with someone that's going to bring all of her soul whisperer spiritual medicine as well as her genius skills as a life coach to sit and listen and reflect back to you and help you to open up and create clarity. And also, most importantly, to discover, is this warrior storyteller program something that might be a catalyst for the next up level of your life? And you're going to get to talk to Jenny about her program and about why and any questions that you have and feeling into whether it is the right opportunity for you. And like she said, there's only 10 spots, and this video is going out to my entire list, so you do want to take an opportunity to go below the video and book your session. If you book that session, show up to that session ready and show up to that session with intention, because this is a really beautiful and open gift from Jenny that I know she rarely does. And you want to sign up for those sessions, I believe by July 7th is the deadline, because the program is starting soon. So if you're interested in some one-on-one time, make sure to go below, get the calendar link, set a session, put it in your calendar, do a little meditating about how you're going to show up and be really present for that session. If the program itself is already speaking to you and you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to join, then you can go right to the program link, check it out, and see it and sign up. So, Jenny, thank you for this beautiful gift for my tribe. I think it's so important that we talk about this. It's something I haven't really talked about in this level of depth, and it's so great to bring your work to them. Is there anything else that you want to tell them or invite them to before we close and send them over to book that session or check out your program?
Yes. Okay, so I found this quote by the Dalai Lama that was a huge revelation for me. And he says that the world doesn't need more quote-unquote successful people. What the world actually needs is more healers and restorers and lovers and storytellers of all kinds. And that just hit me in the heart, because I think we're all so guilty, at least I am, of trying to put on the successful show to really do our work in the world. I'm a life coach. Look at me dancing in this photo in the waves. Or I'm a life coach. I've manifested this. And those things are wonderful and beautiful, and they give us a beautiful life experience. But the purpose is really about healing and reaching the people who need us. Mm-hmm. And so I would just love to invite you to do that through story and to increase your impact by owning your spiritual gifts.
What a beautiful quote and way to close. Ladies, thank you for being here to hold this space for Jenny to brag and share her mission and to feel into your heart and see if it resonates with you. Jenny, thank you for being here. I'll add all those links again below the video for that free 30-minute one-on-one soul strategy story session with Jenny, as well as the link to her program about warrior storytellers, so you can feel into both. And be sure to leave comments in this video below if something just really resonated with you, or if you have some encouragement and love and feedback for Jenny or myself. We would love to receive that, and we'll be sure to check in and read those and communicate with you ladies in sisterhood. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, ladies, and we'll see you next week. Bye.